We are so delighted to be here in person for our first speaker series of the year, the C-Suite Perspective. You're in for a real treat with the program. I'm Kim Butler, Executive Vice President with Hall Group, and your TREC Chairman for 2022. We cannot thank our generous sponsors enough, Bank of Texas, Stewart Title, and the Dallas Morning News, for helping us present a compelling year of informative, insightful, and educational content. And thank you all for your multiple years of support of the Real Estate Council and our speaker series. TREC's mission is to cultivate relationships in the commercial real estate industry, to catalyze community investment, influence policy, propel careers, and develop the leaders of tomorrow. We believe that relationships are the lifeblood of our career success, community investment, and civic responsibility. I have been a member of TREC for years, and I value the meaningful relationships that TREC has afforded me. I could not be more proud to be your 2022 chair. We know firsthand what the members in this room are capable of, and we have seen this organization experience successes. Successes ranging from playing a pivotal role in the initiation and realization of Clyde Warren Park, a game changer for our city, to forging through a global pandemic while continuing to impact the lives of our neighbors through the work of TREC community investors. And we do not rest on our laurels. Over the past few years, TREC has put considerable amount of time and focus and effort on diversifying our industry. I especially want to thank the commitment and hard work of Alex John with HKS, last year's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee Chair, and our current DEI Chair, Darren James with KAI Enterprises. We want career paths open for all people across Dallas and for all to be exposed to this incredible industry that we enjoy. In partnership with other organizations, we're building a foundation to establish pipelines to local talent and to provide resources so the emerging talent that we have will be successful. We are committed to not just being a part of, but a leader in these initiatives. And that is why this year TREC is honored as one of 5 companies by the Dallas Business Journal as a leader in diversity. And we've only just begun. We have shown and will continue to show what we are able to accomplish when we set ambitious goals for ourselves and strive to build the city we all imagine. But we're also known to have a pretty good time while we do it. To talk to us a little more about that, I'd like to bring up my friend, Craig Wilson, Executive Vice President with Stream Realty Partners, and our 2022 Fight Night Chair.
Thank you very much, Kim. Well, it's a little bit hard to believe that we're in February and we're here to talk about an event that's going to take place in September here at the Anatole, but that is because, as somebody at my table just said, Fight Night really is the event of the year, and we're very excited. For those of you that are not familiar with Fight Night, it really is TREC's signature event with a tremendous history. Everybody in this room will have lots of stories, most of which are PG. But it's really the key initiative that funds many of the activities for the organization. Last year's event set a record at $1.5 million, so the bar has been raised high, and we look forward to striving to exceed or achieve that. As I mentioned, this year's event will be here at the Anatole on Thursday, September 29th, and I'm pleased to use this event to announce the theme and the tagline for 2022, which will be Fight Night 2022 Breaking Ground, a celebration of Dallas as a community that has broken ground on some of the greatest and most innovative real estate initiatives over the last 100 years, and the Real Estate Council as a groundbreaking force that shapes our community. So we're really excited to leverage off of those concepts to create a memorable night. Underwriting is underway. I'd like to do a quick thank you to those of you that have already committed and re-upped sponsorships. A particular thanks to Very for signing on as our title sponsor again this year. Committees are being formed right now, so if you're interested in getting involved, please feel free to reach out to me or Lynn Dowdell, who is our vice chairman this year, Linda, or Kristen at Trek. So please reach out. It's going to be a fantastic night. And right now I'll hand over the microphone to Jeff Montgomery with Republic Title to set up today's program. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for being here today. Appreciate everyone coming out. We're excited about this whole speaker series year and real excited about today especially. Everyone in the room knows that there's been several years of massive population growth and companies moving here, which benefits all of us. There's challenges that come with that, but there's also great opportunities. We wanted to take a step back and kind of understand the reasons why this is going on. So today we put together an excellent group to explain what's going on and how come we're getting so many Texans all of a sudden. The panel has 3 people today: Josh Friedman, founder of Canyon Capital; Sandy Cross, the Chief People Officer of PGA America; Robert Allen, President and CEO of Texas Economic Development Corporation; and we're lucky enough to have Katrice Hardy be the moderator. She's the new executive editor of the Dallas Morning News. So I'd like to welcome all 4 up to the stage. Their full bios are in the program, so please check them out. Thanks. Yeah, I think so.
Katrice, do you prefer to sit in the chair? I'll maybe go on the end so I can see you guys. Hello, everyone. We are all honored to be here and incredibly excited about this discussion today. So before I get started, I wanted to mention that my family and I have only been here 6 months, and we're proud to be new Texans. Also, as editor of the Dallas Morning News, we are focused all the time on our journalism that actually inspires and highlights all the wonderful aspects of our community, but more importantly, if it points out problems, it's doing so to help our community prosper. And for that reason, I'm excited about our conversation today. So let's get started. I was doing a little research and found out that Texas is only one of 4 states in the country who has been able to regain all of the 1.4 million jobs that it lost after the economic shutdown. Utah, Arizona, and Idaho were the other 4. Our economy prospers in a number of different industries, from the business sector to the financial sector. So Robert, how have we been able to regain our jobs, and what makes Texas so special?
Sure, Katrice, thank you. And first, let me say to Linda and her team at Trek, thank you for having me. It's an honor to share the stage with Sandy, Josh, as well, so thank you. And you know, I think, Katrice, when you look at it, and first of all, we're all Texans, right? So we're very proud of the fact that we are the biggest state by a mile on that list, I'll point out. Although our friends in Arizona would probably jab me a little bit for that. But when you think about Texas's recovery from the pandemic, you know, I remind people about where we went into the pandemic. We were firing on all cylinders. I mean, everything was working. We were at the top of the list of every single reputable, credible business list you could imagine. Our trophy cabinet is overflowing with, you know, every single piece of hardware you could hope to attain. And so when you enter something like the COVID-19 global pandemic at that position, you know, as long as you keep your eye on the prize and, you know, keep focused on what got you to that position. In other words, put business first. Governor Abbott's very clear, you know, he says, look, when businesses succeed, Texas succeeds. And so that mindset, I think, ultimately then, as you've seen with the lifting of the restrictions, opening up the state 100%, you know, has gotten us out of the pandemic in, again, I'd argue, the best position of the most populous state. And then one other key piece, which then dovetails into the second part of your question, and that is, it's the people of Texas. The people of Texas are entrepreneurial, they're aggressive, they don't apologize for being a Texan. I was born and raised here in this great state, right here in Dallas, and there's just something about being a Texan. You're proud of it wherever you go. And so I think that also helped Texas get out of the pandemic quicker than other states. And I think that also is one of the key reasons why not only Texas, but the Metroplex here in particular does so well. And hopefully we can get into that later, but there's no doubt about it. The people here are the best, and that's one of the biggest reasons why we are where we are right now.
Yeah, to note that, our region has had 3.6% unemployment rate, and while the state has 5%, that's comparably lower. So our region is doing a great job. Josh, I'll ask you, of what Robert just discussed, what factors really had you guys thinking, Canyon Partners really needs to move to Texas? And what other states did you guys consider?
Just to be clear, we moved our headquarters here. We still have an office in Los Angeles that's actually, at the moment, at least larger than the one here.
Okay.
Although I would anticipate those will be more equal and eventually probably be more heavily weighted here. And we have offices in New York and London and elsewhere. There's sort of a push and a pull. Sandy and I were talking about this a little bit before, because she's kind of an interesting case, having moved from Palm Beach,
Yes.
where you don't have the same push to get out because you're in a low-tax, more affordable state.
Right.
There were certain things that made Los Angeles a very exciting place to have a business many years ago, and a lot of those things have gotten more difficult. Whether they're cost of living, whether it's the length of the commute, whether it's property prices, whether it's the quality of public schools, and whether it's the easy availability of private school alternatives. Plus, generally, Robert talked about the attitude and the welcoming sense of being, of actually applauding business success. I believe that in the state where I lived, business success used to be applauded, and it was tremendously exciting. And I don't feel that way any longer, to be perfectly candid. So we started looking at other places, really to give alternatives to our employees, where we could hire, where we could have all those factors that I just talked about. And we looked at a lot of different states. And we looked at a lot of cities. We looked in Austin, we looked in Dallas, we looked in Nevada, in Reno, which we met with the head of EDON, the Economic Development Authority of West Nevada, which has so many businesses moving to it. We looked in Palm Beach, we looked in Miami. So we looked at a lot of cities. I talked to people like the senior guys at Goldman Sachs who were doing very detailed studies of a number of different states, and tried to find a place that felt comfortable and welcoming, and that would provide a lot of those things, and also provide the excitement and a sort of rejuvenating factor that you feel when you go to a new place. I felt that way when I moved from New York to Los Angeles to work for Mike Milken, when he was not really a very well-known character in the business world. And it was extraordinary, and having that, being a part of that excitement was a great thing. And I felt a change of location could provide that. And we haven't been disappointed. We felt that Dallas could offer that combination of affordable homes, of reasonable commutes, extraordinarily rich group intellectually. And that's a very, very big deal. You don't have to look far in Dallas to find really sophisticated investors, really sophisticated people in the real estate business, in the finance business, in the arts, in the humanities. It's a real city, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better because it's very clear that the state very much wants to be a mecca for people looking for a hospitable place to do business. So it really stood out to us. We liked Austin a lot. My son's firm has moved its headquarters to Austin. Okay. I felt it was more difficult to move a larger population of people there comfortably with schools and residences and everything else. And Dallas had a very at-home feeling for us. Okay. By the way, the city was designed by some of the same landscape architects who laid out Los Angeles, which is why so many of the street names are actually the same in Beverly Hills. Beverly, Crescent, Lexington, and so forth. That's not a coincidence. It's actually the fact. So it felt comfortable to us. And as we've come here, we could not have had, on a personal level, a more welcoming environment. So those are just a few of the many reasons. But I think it has, if anything, far exceeded expectations.
So excitement, which we'll get back to, Josh. I'd love to hear more about what that entails. But Sandy, let's talk about you two very different businesses. So Sandy, as you know, is with PGA of America. I've heard a number of people walk up to her, oh my God, we're so glad you're here. So she's probably got the best seat in the house tonight. Sandy, tell us about your company and why you guys were thinking about leaving, more importantly, and where you were trying to go. Like, what states did you look at? Why our area?
Absolutely. And Katrice, thanks so much. I'm incredibly honored to be here and have this opportunity to meet so many of you and network and have this really important dialogue. As Robert mentioned, we're currently headquartered in sleepy little Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Beautiful spot on the map, but it was time for a change, really, as we thought about not only the next generation of the PGA of America, but the next generation of the sport of golf and what we need to do to take that to the next level. And our vision at the PGA of America is to create not only a game of golf, but a golf industry workforce and a golf industry supply chain that truly reflect the demographics of America. There's currently about 25 million in the United States that play golf. There's 2 million jobs in golf annually in the US, and golf is an $84 billion a year industry in the US. So as we thought about what is it going to take to get there and to catapult ourselves, not only to be able to sustain the sport, but to grow the sport in the next generation, we knew that we needed to make a move. We conducted an RFP process to 60 different markets across the United States. So we went far and wide, just really threw it out there. And there was a short list that quickly rose to the top, and Frisco was at the top of that list, really from the get-go. Josh, you touched on it. The warm welcoming was incredible, has been incredible, is incredible. But let me back up for a moment. We are a professional trade association. We represent 28,000 men and women who have elected a career in the business of golf. They teach the game, they coach in the game, they manage the business of golf at 10,000 golf facilities around America. So these are your local club professionals or your local golf professionals. So as Katrice, as we thought about recruiting and educating the next generation of PGA of America golf professionals, this was the market that we wanted to do it in. We quickly bought into the vision with the city of Frisco to become Sports City USA. Very attractive for us. As part of our home office and as part of the expansive PGA Frisco campus, we are going to have our PGA of America Education Center on campus. So that's where PGA individuals will become accredited as PGA professionals, and they'll also come through that campus for their continuing education, which they're all required to do every 36 months. So just an incredible opportunity. And frankly, some things that sound so simple, it's far easier for people, including our PGA members, to be traveling out in and out of Dallas than West Palm Beach, Florida. Big difference. We're a very travel-heavy business, travel-heavy staff, also a major media market. We think about the championships that we own and operate, the PGA Championship, the Senior PGA Championship, the Women's PGA Championship, potentially bringing a Ryder Cup to the city of Frisco. The ability to broadcast them from this market onto a global stage is super impactful. And then, of course, back to my statement earlier about creating an industry workforce that mirrors America, the talent opportunity in this market is tremendous versus Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm Beach, Florida.
Great. So you were talking earlier about roughly 80 employees are here now, I believe, from your company. And so I'll mention this to you, Josh, because you talked about your son's company relocating to Austin. Last year the DFW area led Texas with new residents with 63,000 compared to Austin's 48,000. You can tell your son's company that. I hope if it's not too late. But the question I had really about that was workforce readiness, right? That's a key area, a key issue that you hear in a lot of actually big metropolitan areas where you wouldn't think that would be an issue. Talk to us a little bit about that workforce readiness. What did we have here for your company, Josh, first, and then yours, Sandy, that really helped you feel like not only can my company move here, but we can thrive and grow because of that?
The first day I moved here, which is October 1st, we had started our office on June 1st, and we didn't force anybody to move.
Okay.
We took an office that would accommodate 60 people. We had about, as I said, about 180 in LA and then in these other offices. And we thought we'd get 20 or 30 people, but you can't do this without leadership. Like if the leadership doesn't move, people won't go. And so, so I, among others in the top at our company, decided to make a commitment to move. And I spent the first day just talking to everyone in the office. Almost everyone at every level had bought a house, from a $300,000 house to much, much more expensive homes. They moved their kids into schools and didn't have tremendous difficulty finding quality education, whether it was public education in certain parts of the market or private education, and they had alternatives. One of my employees said, you know, I feel like I have a 10-year head start on my retirement.
Oh, wow.
Because the cost of living is so much lower. And his after-tax savings are much, much higher. So, so the women and men have been tremendous. It's not an easy labor market. As you point out, unemployment is very low, so people have alternatives. But that's true generally. But try looking at what someone's standard of living is like in LA, who's an entry-level employee, and it's quite difficult, or in New York. You know, lots of young people want to be there when they get out of school. It's a lot of fun. It's a real locus of activity. But by the time you grow up and you have a couple of kids and you've got a husband and you're both working and you're trying to make ends meet and you're trying to save for your own retirement and also provide a nice standard of living and a nice culture, Texas is just Dallas is a sensible market for that. So it's not about what we're doing at the top of our workforce. It's really what we're doing in the middle of it, which is where most of our employees reside. And that's most of our employees. You know, sure, there's always a few people at the top who are the executives who would love to pay less in taxes. But the vast majority of our employees, it was really about an entire change in their lifestyle and for their families. And it made a very big impact, and it is making it immediately.
Wow. How many employees do you have here, Josh? We didn't talk about
We have about 60 so far. We pretty much had to stop it because we ran out of office space.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maria Stamolis, who's one of our co-eds of real estate, is here today, and she did an extraordinary job at getting us fitted out in a good office that worked for us like immediately, which I was amazed that we could pull off. But we're already looking to expand it next year because it wouldn't surprise me if we had another 40 here next year. And it is, I think it is easier to hire here. It's still difficult every place right now, but I think we see more qualified candidates here right now than we're seeing there. But those things ebb and flow. I think with the headquarters here, it also makes that a little bit, self-effectuating.
Sandy?
Well, I think about our workforce in a couple of different buckets. From a pure corporate perspective, we've got about a total of 300 employees. And when you think about workforce readiness, the depth in this market is really, really attractive. In partnerships with UNT, for example, we have a very strong partnership with them. We have an emerging partnership with Texas Workforce Solutions. So those types of relationships are really helping us identify and tap and attract that talent. But I also think about our championships. In the next 12 years, we'll host 26 championships on the PGA Frisco campus. And for each of those championships, our vendors, the companies that help us build the city, if you will, for a championship, could be food and beverage, could be transportation logistics, could be decor, hospitality, floral, anything you would think you might see at a championship. All of those vendors need to source subcontractors and workers from the local community. They don't come into the market with those individuals. So there's a very comprehensive temporary workforce that we need to power those championships. And this is a great place to be able to tap into to help our vendors fill those thousands of shifts leading into the championship, during championship week, and also post-championship for the breakdown. Then there's also a very in-depth volunteer workforce that we need to power those championships. For our major spectator championships, depending on which one, we'll need anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 volunteers. So incredible opportunity, we think, in this market to fill opportunities across those three buckets.
Robert, when your organization is talking to companies, and based on all the things we've talked about today, I think you might have one of the easiest jobs in that. There are a lot of pros here to getting a company to come. But what themes do you hear consistently as maybe top challenges that they might face in relocating to our area, into Texas? And how do you work with them and point them in the direction of saying, hey, I can check that off. That's not an issue now, as I thought previously.
Sure. Well, and first, if you can't tell, I mean, I have like a permanent grin on my face. I was one of the ones that immediately came up to Sandy and was like, thank you. I donate a lot of golf balls, and I'm so glad you're here. But I mean, these testimonials, I mean, frankly, you can't buy this kind of testimonial because this is what they've experienced. But you talk about challenges, and look, growth is not without challenges. And, I think one of the number one challenges that we hear is talent, right? Access to talent. And, I'd tell you 5 years ago in this business, it was, tell me about the incentives, tell me about, how you can help us, reduce the cost. Now it's all about talent. And we're actually seeing companies, very, very large companies and small companies for that matter, that are foregoing financial incentives just because they want to be in Texas so bad. And so they're willing to, leave that on the sideline because of the other benefits. Josh did a great job of articulating, what that talent is experiencing, whether it's education and housing and, the ability to get plugged in instantly. But no, the country is seeing challenges in talent. We are not immune to that either. But the good news with that, as I remind people, is we're one of the fastest growing states in the country. You are in one of the fastest growing MSAs in the country. You are seated, number 9, number 12, I think, the size of cities that are separated by 30 some odd miles, with one of the best, if not the best, in my humble opinion, international airports right in the middle. Sandy talked about this, and I can't tell you how many times we hear in conversations with decision makers, hey, tell me about your airport. Show me how many flights directs you have to Asia. Show me how many directs you have to Europe. And we're just like, yeah, great. Let me show you. Another challenge, is the housing front, right? Now I'm in Austin, so I know what a challenging housing market's like. By the way, if anybody wants to buy my house, I'll happily sell it to you, but I have no place to go. But that's again, that's a challenge that arises out of rapid growth. Now, again, great news here is you've got unbelievable amounts of what I'll call other markets that are plugged into the Metroplex, but don't have to be plugged into the Metroplex. Frisco's at the top of the list. Irving, McKinney, you can just go on and on and on. Arlington is really coming on strong lately. So these are cities in and of themselves that you might, if you're lucky in other major urban environments, get 1 or 2 of those. Here you have multiple options. They're building rapidly. And so again, I think that's a temporary challenge. I think that challenge, will ultimately go by the wayside. And then finally, I think there's a long-term question about the impact of the pandemic, right? In terms of office environments, flexible work environments, what does that mean? I look at that as an opportunity, not a challenge, because I know in Texas, as I said at the very beginning of the conversation, the attitude here is let's roll up our sleeves and get it done, solve the problem. We're going to be faced with challenges again. Challenges are not anything new to Texans. We deal with them all the time. We face them head on. And so I think, again, the response to the pandemic is a good indication of what you're going to get long term. I'm sure in this room there's lots of concerns about office space and what that's going to really look like. The reality is, Texans, and especially those, although I do like all my children equally, but North Texas is one of the leaders. So I'll tell you that. You get up every day and you want to make a difference. And you get that mentality here. So again, I don't necessarily categorize it as a challenge. I see it as an opportunity because I don't think you get that in some other areas of the country that will remain nameless.
So we'll dive into housing. As someone who moved here from South Carolina trying to find some permanent housing, it's been a bit difficult. But, 3 states have pretty much rate up 40% of our new resident growth, and that's California, New York, and Illinois. In most cases, those folks are coming and saying, hey, I've got a cost of living that's a whole lot better for my lifestyle. Not really sure about Florida for you. And so talk about relocation assistance for your staff. How are you able to work with them, provide them those services that they need, housing, education? Talk to us about that package that you've provided them and, what are their concerns or actually the things that they love about living here?
It's interesting because we've been relocating our people over a very long period of time. I would say 2.5 years now, and it'll come really fully to fruition this June. So it's been a very long road. We feel that the relocation incentive packages that we've offered our people are very, very robust. We did that intentionally. We also made a decision early on. We were going to work with a relocation management firm. We had frankly gone very far down the path with one, a great firm, but at the last minute we decided, you know what? Let's step away from that, take the dollars we would have spent with that company and put them into the incentive packages for our people to enrich them even more. Now that administratively has been a very heavy lift on our small people team at the PGA of America, so that's been a challenge, but we were able to enrich those packages, and I think that was meaningful. I can't say enough about the educational opportunities here. Whether it's with FISD or UNT or Collin College. And we do have incentives, educational incentives for not only our employees, but also their children who are at college, university age to benefit from, so that's been attractive. I will say, though, a very emerging question the last 6 months that we're getting from the individuals who have not yet relocated is inflation, cost of living. Are you going to enrich the packages? We have not changed the packages at all since day one. We've been pretty adamant about not changing them, but I'm starting to feel a little bit of pressure from this remaining group who hasn't made the move yet, that maybe we do need to do something. So we're looking closely at that to see if we need to make an adjustment.
Okay. So one thing that's great about Texas, we've all talked about that, is that low tax, business friendly environment and those policies that have been put in place to help companies come here and to welcome them. Robert, walk us through from your experience when companies are looking at which state, maybe it's down to 2 or 1. How does those low tax policies really kind of set them over the edge? What benefits does that provide a company at the end of the day?
Well, it's huge. Katrice, when you think about some of the personal tax liabilities that are incurred in other states, and when I talk about this, I always want to set the table. I'm not just talking about high net worth individuals. That's great, all right, and the difference that you can make, at that level is tremendous. But this is for, we talked about earlier. Josh talked about earlier, kind of the middle, meat of his company, right? So I always want to set the table. This is at all levels of income. It's meaningful. And what's great about Texas is that everybody knows something about it. So we walk into a conversation with people and they know something. Now sometimes it's a little bit off basis, right? My horse, by the way, is tied up outside. And my cowboy hat's at the table, but that's fine because that means they know something about us, and that's great. I don't have to say hi. I'm from South Dakota, and by the way, we're up by the Canadian border. But when you talk about the tax policies, what they really want to know when it gets down to the nitty gritty is, okay, so what does that mean for me? You can do the math and you can figure that out quickly. But then it becomes how that can translate into the ability to improve their quality of life. And so that's a shift that we've seen over the last couple of years. Sandy, I think you were talking about it perfectly, right? And, inflation certainly is a concern on people's mind. And we tell people, look, it really is this good in Texas. We promise you. And so again, they get the math picture done for them, right? Their accountant can quickly tell them. But then the question is, well, then how does that translate? And the quality of life aspect, I can't emphasize this enough. The business advantages are there, and most of the people that we talked to in the last 12 to 24 months, they know the business case. They've probably paid a consultant to give them the business case. What they want to know is the personal side. They want to know about schools. They want to know about housing. They want to know about churches and civic activities. I have more conversations now with C-suites about, okay, I'm thinking about living here. Tell me what I need to know on the personal side. I don't need anything on the business side. I'm all good there. I need to know the personal. And so it's great because a lot of that is driven by that tax advantage that you get here. And other states have it too. So let's be honest. We have our competition in Florida, Arizona, and elsewhere. But then you start layering on the other pieces and that other quality of life perspective. And again, last comment I'll make is, I think of all the bad that the pandemic brought on, and there was lots of it. A good positive that came out of that was a focus on true flexible work environments, work-life balance. We talk about work-life balance, but the pandemic, I think, has forced leaders to really think about what that means for the workforce. I'd be really interested in Sandy's thoughts on this. But in Texas now, you've gotten the ability, so okay, you're a little bit flexible on maybe a Friday afternoon. Well, the great news is in Texas, especially here in the Metroplex, the world is your oyster, what you might want to go do. There's other cities, again, who remain nameless where, it's 12 degrees outside and, there's 14 feet of snow. So good luck, go figure it out. What are you going to do? So I think a lot of our conversations lately starts with the tax advantages, but then it quickly translates into, well, tell me about all the rest of the personal side of it. That's a story that I love to tell because it's a story that's very, very good. Again, the DFW Metroplex is at the top of the list when you want to talk about that type of quality of life, arts, the symphony. Sports City USA. All of these things go into the picture. So it's not just about the business side of it anymore.
I would just echo that comment if I could. The first place we looked was Florida because that was the natural place to go. And if we were just thinking about the senior partners at the firm, Florida would have been a much more natural place to go. You've got this incredible exodus of financial firms going from New York to Miami and to Palm Beach. We would have walked in knowing half the community. It would have been easy. Cost isn't that big a factor, et cetera. But then when you thought about a couple of other things, one was as I said, the meat of the firm. Where is it really going to be impactful for people and for a lot more people and a lot better for more people? It was really almost immediately obvious that you'd have a great deal more success at providing some significant additional runway and all those other amenities in a place like Dallas than you would in some of the other major cities in Florida that were already very crowded, had a lot of the same issues that beset a lot of the larger cities where we're all coming from, the source cities. And while it could have worked, it would not have worked nearly as well as Dallas. The other thing is that because of the way Dallas is situated, it's not one city and then you just go out further and further until you're out in the middle of nowhere. All these other cities that we talked about, with whether it's Frisco or whether it's Plano or whether it's, it provides a very interesting development opportunity and interesting alternatives for our employees where we locate. It wasn't as simple a decision as, let's just go in the middle of Uptown. But I think it was pretty much exactly what Robert was saying. The first blush, you go, taxes. It really wasn't about that at all at the end of the day. It was one of many factors, but the other factors really came to be dominant as we spent more time thinking about it.
Sandy, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I was just going to build on the point about how important the personal elements are. And very early on, after we announced that we were going to relocate, we had individuals from the city of Frisco, the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, UNT, FISD, all come together at once, including the mayor, to Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, to talk to our people. They held an evening function. The next day, half day, they did an open house. Like, that was really, really valuable. So people could talk one-on-one, ask their very personal questions about all the things you mentioned, churches and activities, and the personal is so important, more important than the business professional career decision.
It's a long-term relationship. We tell people, Katrice, all the time, and let me be very clear, I like to win. I don't like to lose, but it's not just about the win. The win is the beginning, not the end. And that's, I think, part of the recipe for success in Texas is that we see it as a long-term relationship. If you're successful, you're going to build. It's going to be very hard for you to look elsewhere when you want to expand. And so it's a long-term relationship. And you see that across the board for sure.
So you think about LA and California and just kind of that thriving cultural scene and like the beach. I've spent a lot of time in Florida as well. But I've personally been really surprised by how much there is to do here culturally and how civically engaged our community is, from CEOs to employees. Walk me through, what you've experienced, what has surprised you culturally that we have here, and about that civic engagement maybe that you were shocked by.
Well, there's a very high level of civic engagement, and part of the game for us is to say, okay, we we don't want to immediately get consumed by all the new civil opportunities for civil engagement. We'll let that evolve a little bit as we get to learn the community. But people are so well-intentioned and so eager to involve you in what they're doing away from their businesses. It's been terrific. There's nothing like, Paris, London, New York. These are extraordinary magnets with, multi-hundred-year advantages over other cities in the world in terms of, you look at the collection at the Met is, I was with my son in the Museum of Modern Art. I have a son who's at Stanford, and we're standing in one of the rooms, and he says, Dad, the art in this room exceeds the value of all of the art in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Wow. And he's right, it did. There's Jackson Pollock, there's a gigantic Picasso, incredible rooms there. That's a product of passage of time, but that doesn't make it any less exciting to be in LA at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the same with the Dallas Museum of Art, and the same with the Nasher Collection, and the same with the Dallas Symphony, and the same with the museums in Fort Worth, which are really extraordinary. I had a day a few weeks ago, my wife was out of town, and I just drove there myself, and I just walked through the Kimball, and I walked through, and then I walked through the Fort Worth Modern Art Museum. These are all institutions that are on the move. We know they're going to be on the move. They're going to continue to change. There's a new restaurant like every other day here, and my son was very disappointed that a particular restaurant was relocating in the middle of Highland Park, and he said, why don't they have a local restaurant? I don't want them to bring a New York franchise here. But they see the opportunity. So I think you can't look at it like it's a static thing and say, here's where the state of the art here, and compare this and say, oh, I'm going from, LA to you have to look out a few years. And with the population changing the way it is, and with the people coming in, and with the degree of civil engagement, these institutions are all going to evolve, and they're going to evolve quickly. And for people who are interested in those things, you can be part of that evolution and get involved, or you can sit back and just enjoy the ride. But no matter how you cut it, it's going to be great. And it's changing. I mean, the restaurant scene, which I'm slowly discovering here, there's a new great restaurant every week here. And I think that is only going to continue.
So I'll put in a plug for the Dallas Morning News real quickly. We have now 2 food writers because the food scene is happening here. Wow. So, and actually, I personally need to slow down on all the restaurants I've been trying. So, Sandy, what about you?
Yeah, if I could just follow on that. Something that really surprised us was the number of community-based organizations that have reached out to us that want to partner in some way, shape, or form. And for whatever reason, that just wasn't the case in Palm Beach County, Florida. So as a result, all of these organizations reaching out, we launched a program with our employees called PGA Cares. So every employee now on an annual basis gets 16 paid volunteer time off hours to go connect with whatever community-based organizations they want. We'll do some organized programs with certain organizations, but if a PGA employee wants to go volunteer at something that they're passionate about and do that on their own, we support that as well. And it really plays into the work-life balance component that you talked about, Robert, and what you get back personally from volunteering as well as what you're giving. It's just so fulfilling and so enriching, and helps our team members achieve a greater balance in their life. So we've been just incredibly surprised by the outreach from those local organizations.
So we've just got a few minutes left. What I thought I would do is ask each of you to share maybe a personal story, just last parting words for our audience about why our region has been able to attract you guys here, and anything else that you'd like to share about the experience so far. I'll start with you, Josh, and then Robert. Can you go?
That's a hard one. These happen every day. I mean, literally every day. There's another way that we get that warm welcome, and I think getting involved in the community is one way. But I'll share one. I was talking to my chief operating officer back in LA in September, and I had been during the prior week. I had been in Austin as well as in Dallas. And you know how all those people who track your phone figure out where you go to Austin, you start getting weird unrecognizable numbers that say Austin, Texas. So I had the unrecognizable Austin, Texas number, and I said, I'm sure this is one of those guys trying to tell me how to pay off my student loans, but let me just pick it up. and I picked it up, and it was hey Josh, this is Governor Greg Abbott, and he's telling me how happy he is that we're relocating. Do I know any other people relocating? You know, please, here's my cell phone, text me if you know somebody. If I text him, boom, instant text back, and he's talking to other people. That doesn't exist in other states. That's not normal, you know, and it's great. I mean, he doesn't know me. You know, like, we're not bringing that many people here, but it gets you excited and feeling good about what you're doing, and you feel like there's leadership that cares about the health and success of the business community, as opposed to saying, how do I victimize or criticize the business community? I mean, we're involved in every civic organization that there is in LA after 30 years, and at every level of our organization. Some of the things, like I thought what you just said was really great, Sandy. I think people love being associated with an organization that does things that are not just commercial. And over time, we'll do the same thing here. But to get that kind of reinforcement at every level of the state is I think, just extraordinary. So.
Robert?
You know, by the way, I worked for the governor for about 14 years. He called me between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. So you're lucky if you got to you during the day. But you know, Katrice, for me, it's pretty simple. I have a 10-year-old son and a soon-to-be 7-year-old daughter. And so I walk out the door every day and I look at them and I say, okay, my job is to make sure that there are jobs available, good jobs available for my son and my daughter when they get to, you know, employment age. And that sounds maybe cliche or simple or whatever, but then you take them out into the world, and I drive them around this state that I love so much. And, you know, the personal story with my son, I'm driving down 130. We take a detour to leave in Austin. We're coming up to Dallas, see my parents. And he's like, Dad, why are we going by the airport? I'm like, I just want to go out this way. I just want to show you something. He's really into architecture and construction, right? So we drive by, and I don't say anything. And sure, right off the bat, he knows exactly why. He's like, what is that? And I said, well, I don't know what that is, but it's a really big building, and, you know, it's coming along really well. And at the time, I couldn't tell him what it was, and obviously now I can. And obviously, it was Tesla. It was Giga Texas. And we the whole drive, he was talking to me about, okay, well, what are they building there? Like, what is it? And he was just fascinated by it. And I took him back by there the other day and showed him, and I said, you know, this is why I do what I do, because this is a physical manifestation of how great it is, but the amount of lives that will change for the better. And obviously, it's just one example with what they are bringing to town, what Sandy and her organization will bring to town, what Josh and his organization will bring to town, and to have this kind of experience. So again, for me, it's just really simple. And that's that, you know, I drive around town all the time. My kids ask me what cranes are what. You know, I can tell them about some things, can't tell them about other things. But that excitement, you know, they don't know any different. They just expect that. They just think that's reality. But obviously, I know that's not, and I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. So for me, any opportunity I get to demonstrate, you know, kind of physically what we're doing and the impact that it leaves, you know, I'm all over it. And for me, that's the drive every day. So that's it's very easy to wake every day and go, you know, tackle the inbox when you start thinking about the kind of impact that it can have, you know, realistically on other people's lives. So for me, it's very easy.
You're gonna bring them by Sandy's building when they're in April.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, so hey, by the
Yes,
way, my
let's
kid's
do it.
really, you know, he likes golf, so we want to come see the new facility. So
Perfect. That's so great. Josh said it's a tough question. There's so many different ways to answer it, but I think about professionally and personally, I have an amazing opportunity and responsibility to lead the diversity, equity, and inclusion charge for the PGA of America and really the golf industry at large, holistically. And I get so excited because I truly don't think there's a better place where I could do that for our company and myself professionally than in a market like this. So that's what I'm really most excited about. So thank you again for being here today and listening to our insights and personal stories. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
thank you.
Thank you, Katrice.
So I'd like to welcome Linda to the stage. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Do you guys have any questions for us? And I'm standing up so I can see. Absolutely.
So what's the timeline? When you started thinking, Josh, when you started thinking about moving, from thinking about it to doing it?
You know, we started thinking about it non-seriously probably 5 years ago, because we could sort of see you kind of read the tea leaves. And I think that COVID really was a chance to just think way out of the box in many different ways. And when that hit, it just, it was a chance to just reconsider everything. It taught us that we could work with we knew we could work with multiple offices already, but it made us less fearful of it. It taught us how important it was to be thinking about all these non-economic types of factors. It was just, I think that was the wake-up call. So we got really serious right after COVID, and then, within a year, we were well down the road. So it took us 1.25 years, maybe. It was very quick. I started having a lot of conversations with others who were much further ahead and who had been planning for a much longer period of time, because I thought, we're not going to replicate the work that Goldman Sachs does or others. But as long as they're happy to share it, I was happy to be a recipient.
Do you know your time frame?
Sure. Conversations at our company started in 2014, 2015, obviously not specific to Frisco, but the idea of making a move. If I recall correctly, I think the formal announcement was in 2018 to our people that we were going to make the move. And then the move has been happening since that time. If we had to do something over, it would be to shorten the relocation timeline, and it would be 1 year. This 3-year, whatever it is, timeline of relocating people has been incredibly difficult from a cultural perspective. Throw a pandemic on top of it and all the other things that are going on in the world. That is the one thing we would change. I would recommend, do it in 1 year, bite the bullet, get it over with. People are either going or they're not going. But to drag it out over 3 years it's been difficult. But that's been our timeline.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Linda.
Well, if that doesn't fire you up, I don't know what else does. I mean, this has really been a great conversation, and thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your enthusiasm. Welcome to Texas. We love having you here. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of our members are involved in the development of the PGA campus. So you keep them coming, Robert, because that gives everyone in this room a job.
Very good.
So we really appreciate that. We really strive to put together great programs for you all. And so as we are going through the year, we will have some really tremendous educational programs for you to get together and to see each other, but also to learn something. And hopefully you've learned something today. Thank you so much to Bank of Texas and Stewart Title. We really appreciate your constant support, Dan. We really can't do this without you, and we appreciate that. And additionally, if you have noticed in your program, we have some upcoming programs. So we're going to be doing a program in March back at the Arts District Mansion for breakfast, Market Matters, and we'll be talking about the multifamily industry. We're really excited about that. And for those of you who haven't heard, and I'm really proud of this, the Real Estate Council was just named by the Dallas Business Journal as a leader in diversity. This is a very important initiative for us. Our chairman, Kim Butler, has decided that this is going to be the thing that she's going to focus on this year, and we're looking forward to working with you all on that. And also, the work we're doing in the Forest District through Trek Community Investors is really going to be showing some great progress, so hopefully you'll come and see the work that our members have been engaged in for the last 3 years. Thanks for being here. Come back again the next time we see you, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.